Well, the Clash at Bowman Gray was not as I expected it. If you watched the last episode, I said that it was going to be a little tame, and there was portions of that where it was a kind of a tame race where not a whole lot was going on, but there was portions where it was actually getting a little wild. Especially the last chance elimination. To get in, which Kyle Larson won that, so he got himself into the main. But there was a lot of action in there. There was some cars passing each other. Kyle Busch got kind of punted to the outside there and destroyed his race. And William Byron, he got stuck on the outside and hit that wall, which was kind of interesting that they had a safer barrier there. I thought that was very unnecessary. I never really saw what their actual top speeds were, but I can't imagine that you need a safer barrier at a place like that. I couldn't imagine they were going over 90 mile an hour at any point in time. Not to say that hitting that wall would be fun. It certainly wouldn't be, but it does kind of make you wonder, wouldn't it have been better to have another 2 feet of track so cars could race side by side a little bit more? I don't know. So Larson won that last chance qualifier. He gets himself in. You have the 9 car that was started the main up front. He and the 11 looked really, really strong. They kind of went back and forth with the lead for a while. The cars that were in the back, such as Kyle Larson that, got that qualifier that had to go to the back, he had no shot at the race, really. Too much for him to overcome there, unfortunately. If you think about it, he's just too many cars to pass in too little time. But the 9 and 11 were going at it. One car that passed a lot was the 12 car. He started in 23rd, and he ended up second or third in the race. So I think he was second. So it was Chase Elliott won, Ryan Blaney gets second, and Denny Hamlin takes third. So from 23rd to second, that's really, really good that he was able to move through that pack like that. I didn't know that anybody was going to be able to do that, but he was just kind of faster and pushing guys out of the way. You saw Chase Elliott start in that pole position, and right off the bat, got a second to second and a half lead on the field. So he had a really strong car, obviously, short track setup. He had that all dialed in. But then they had a caution. You get to the lap cars, and those are always a problem, So things happened. Denny Hamlin got out in front of him, but he quickly, after I think the break, got that back and was able to, secure that victory. So that's a good start for Chase Elliott. I know there's a lot of people that are happy about that because he is NASCAR's most popular driver. So, that's a good start for him. Didn't have a great season last year. I mean, he did make it into the playoffs. He just wasn't. You never really saw him as that threat, that he was going to be able to win that championship hands down, and then just kind of a little lackluster in the chase last year. So it'll be interesting to see if Elliott can get a little bit more dominance back, have a great season. This is obviously a great momentum builder to get that win, non-points, but I think like he said in his interview, we'll take a win wherever we can get it. So, too bad for some vehicles that had damage, but overall it was a more interesting race than I thought it was going to be, and it was fun to watch. So next up for NASCAR is going to be the duels at Daytona. That's going to be the 13th on Thursday. Have 2 races there starting at 7 o'clock Eastern, and that's going to be on Fox Sports 1. So be able to watch it there. And that should be some interesting racing. Again, it's, you want to do the best that you can, right? Because you want to improve positions as much as possible. But you got to have that car for the 500. So you don't want anything to happen to it. They're going to be out there, running at a super speedway where things can happen quickly. Bad things can happen quickly. And so I would expect them to be pretty cool for the majority of the race, and then they will, then it'll turn it on, the last few laps and see what happens, and hopefully not have a big accident or something like that happen, because a lot of those cars just can't afford to have that. Some of those smaller teams, so they're definitely not gonna want to see that. And I would expect that some of them, if they're locked in, that will just go to the back and just preserve the car, don't even do the race. And I can't really blame them. We also have this next week on the 11th at 8 Eastern, the NASCAR series will kick off, that Coke series. That will kick off, and that should be interesting to see who's going to come out first, who's going to start the dominance. Of course, they are going to start at Daytona, and then they go to a road course 2 weeks after that. So everything NASCAR is in Daytona this week, whether it's iRacing or it's real world. This is Daytona, so everybody's going to be there. Every series, the trucks, you name it, they're going to be there. And why not? It's the biggest race of the season for a lot of these people. But so we have Xfinity is also, of course, going to be there as well. They're going to be on Saturday. We will talk a little bit before that. We'll have another episode going up to the Saturday and Sunday. Thursday's dual races will be over by the time we broadcast again. So we'll be able to go over that. No actual starting positions in NASCAR. And then we'll go over the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series, which are obviously also at Daytona. I will be looking forward to that. Well, this week in the SRN series, it was at Indianapolis, and it was a great race. I actually had the opportunity to broadcast that race, and it was very interesting. A lot of drivers hadn't really been there a whole lot, hadn't raced a whole lot on that track, and it was because of that. There was some accidents, there was some things. Obviously, if you've ever driven in Indianapolis in iRacing, you know that the outside wall in almost any corner, but especially in 1 and 4, for some reason, they just seem extra treacherous. You're just trying to get off that corner, and it just doesn't always work. And so basically, we saw quite a few cars kind of clipping that wall, causing some accidents, and not anything that anybody did on purpose, but just, some driver errors. And we saw some people really good on long runs and preserving those tires. Track temperature was about 98 degrees or so. Not super hot, but hot enough to kind of make it a little bit slicker out there than you would really want it to be. But it was a good race for a lot of those guys that could hold on to tires, and some of them were off sequence. They were, Alex Healy, for example, he was didn't pit. 14 lap was the first caution. He didn't pit, and got off sequence with almost every other car in the thing. Now, it would have been nice to see if we would have had that long green run at the end, that if his play would have been able to make it so that he had everybody almost a lap down, because I think that's what he was going for. Unfortunately, there was a series of cautions there, and he just kind of had to get back on sequence with everybody, because at that point it wouldn't have made sense. So didn't get to see that strategy play out, because there was a few cautions, but it was good. A good race. You can catch that on the Southern Racing Network YouTube channel. It was not on Extreme Sim TV this week. Unfortunately, they had a emergency and were not able to broadcast it, so it is on the Southern Racing Network YouTube channel. We're starting to see in this series in the trucks that rivalries are starting to pick up. At any series that you go to in iRacing, any league that you join, you will find that at the very beginning, everybody's very nice, very good. And then, ultimately, hey, we're all race car drivers. People want to win. And we're starting to see the teams that are good. Bobby Hall has had several victories so far, and he's continuing to stay strong. Alex Healy is continuing to stay strong. Chris Phillips is strong. And you were starting to see the drivers that are gonna, vie for that podium for the first three in the series, they are starting to kind of show themselves out in who they're going to be. And we also are starting to see a rivalry brewing, between Flex Motorsports and Foothills Motorsports. And this is a good thing. It's a good rivalry. I don't, I love rivalries. I love good, clean, hard racing. If it boils over into anything else and it's purposeful wrecking and stuff like that, obviously that has to be addressed. But the good, clean, hard racing is what the fans want to see. And so we're having that kind of start brewing here between the Foothills Motorsports and Flex. And the biggest players in Flex right now, as far as points go, is clearly Alex Healy, Bobby Hall, Chris Phillips. These guys are really showing out so far, and they are top in the points, and it's showing at the track every single week. Now there are some rivalries going on there. We did have an issue with the 88 of Flex, and we had the 01 of Foothills Motorsports last week at Indianapolis. A little accident happened there. Nothing on purpose. 88 kind of got into the wall, but the 01 was right behind him and hit him, and so little friction brewing there. But like I said, it's good. It fuels the league, So we'll have to see how this continues and how this goes forward. But I think that there's going to be a little bit more to be said on track, and hopefully it'll be in the way of clean, hard racing. And so it should be fun to watch that those two teams as they kind of battle for the championship, as we're only a quarter of the way through this season. So it's not anybody's at this point. Right now we have Bobby Hall has, I think, 3 wins in the series, and so he is obviously looking very good. And if he continues that, he's going to have a really good shot at winning this championship. But there's other drivers that are now taking notice of him and probably are not going to let him around as easily anymore. He has shown that he's the car to beat. So now if he's not out front leading, you would expect that he's going to get a little more opposition, because drivers might feel like as soon as I let him around, I'll never see him again. So I'm going to have to hold him behind me here, and so we'll see how that kind of shapes up. So in the race, Bobby Hall took the win in Indianapolis. Alex Healy gets second place, and Matt Grenier gets third place, and that is a top 3 sweep for Flex Motorsports. So congratulations to them on that. I was actually able to get a section here of the broadcast where I was able to interview all 3 of them. So why don't we go ahead? Let's take a listen to that. Matt Grenier, this is Matt up in the booth. You got me?
Yes, sir.
Hey, buddy, good run tonight. How did it feel out there for you?
It was really good. The truck handled well, got a little loose on the long run, but kept it low and had a lot of grip down there. It was fast tonight. It was really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was a little bit higher track temperature, not as bad as some of the races that we've seen, so the grip seemed like it was pretty decent. Did you have anything you think if you had a little bit longer for some of the guys in front of you, or were you happy with where you were at?
Um, it was pretty even, I feel like. I don't know that even if I got there, I don't know if I could have got around, but um, I'm happy with the third. I should have had fifth last week and kind of uh, got taken out right at the end, but third this week is really good for this track.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a track that a lot of people have done a lot, and I think you've only done 2 or 3 races with the league, so I've been racing with the Flex guys for a while, but a few races in, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, before I let you go ahead and shout out whoever you want, teams, sponsors, anybody. Have at it.
I got to thank Flex Motorsports for letting me be a part of their team. Great group of guys, been racing with them for a while, so can't thank them enough. Want to thank Mag Real Estate and Natural Life and Southern Race Network and you for doing the broadcast. Can't say enough about this league. I'm having a great time so far.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. We'll see you next week, and hopefully you'll get to talk in the booth again.
Thank you.
All right. That was Matt Grenier in your third position. Let's move on now, see if we can get Alex Healy in here, who finished second tonight. Alex, this is Matthew in the booth. You got me?
I got you.
What's up, buddy? Second place tonight. Not bad, huh?
Man, hanging in there. I'm kind of tired of looking at Bobby's tailgate, though. I'll tell you that much.
I hear that, man. Watching it in the booth, it's like, man, it's just, has anybody got something for him? That last restart, I thought it was like, okay, that was a better restart for you, but he just kind of pulled out and away.
Yeah, if we didn't have that last restart, I felt like I was getting in a pretty good rhythm. He was just so much better than me in turn two. We were pretty even, and one, three, I was generating runs on him, and four, occasionally, I was a little bit better, but he was so much better than me in turn two, and I just couldn't make it up on the rest of the track.
Yeah. Now, we were watching you a little bit in the beginning of the race, and it seemed like you were kind of off sequence, and you didn't pit on that first one. Was that by design, or take us through kind of what you were doing and what happened there?
Yeah, that was absolutely by design. It almost worked out way better than it had any right to. But basically, with the sets of tires we had, and our you could run roughly 20 laps, so 80 lap race, so 20, 40, 60.
Yeah.
Um, but we had the early caution. I think it was like at 10 or 12 or something like that, and the way it mathed out in my head, right or wrong, at that time didn't make a lot of sense for me to come in. Um, so I stayed out and ran it as hard as I could. And then when I finally did come and pit, when I came out, I think the top three, maybe four, got by me. I got back up side by side with the first place truck, and then another caution came out before I could get my lap back, and that
Mm.
kind of tanked me for a little while. Then I just kind of had to grind and take advantage of tires when I was on better tires versus everybody else, since I was so far off the sequence. And then there towards the end of the race, when there were kind of a cluster of cautions there, it didn't really matter. So it kind of even backed out to where I was pitting at the same time as everybody else at that point. So it was basically at that point, especially then, I knew that Bobby was faster than I was. And I knew if I did the exact same thing that everybody else did, that I was going to end up, I don't know, top 10-ish maybe at that point.
Hmm.
So I don't know if it ultimately paid off or not, but I like to go against the grain a little bit, especially since I got the win in the first week in my back pocket. I don't mind taking some chances here and there.
Yeah, I mean, it ultimately it worked out because you got back on sequence because of the cautions. It would have been nice to see what would have happened if we didn't get the cautions, because you were the only one on that strategy. So if it worked out, you were going to have the field lapped pretty much. So that would have been
Yeah,
fun to see, but that wasn't to be. But obviously, a P2 is great. Before I let you go ahead and shout out whoever you would like, team sponsors, whoever you want to go for it.
yeah. So let me remember. We've got Mag Real Estate, and then what is it? Natural Life
Natural
Apothecary.
Life. Yeah, yeah.
Natural Life. I remembered them. Shout out to them and Matt running the deal. It's been so much fun so far. I've never run a free league before, and I was kind of apprehensive about it, but the me and the Flex guys got together before the season. We were looking for a home. We decided to come over here, and it's just been awesome racing so far. So shout out to all my Flex guys. I've been racing with them for a few years now. They were cool enough to let me join a while back. So that's obviously Bobby, who I'm tired of looking at his tailgate, Dan Worthington, Matt Grenier, Wes Wiggin, Tom Hall, Dakota Shepard, Michael Cole, Ronnie Shirk's running with us now. Let's see, Tom Hall, if I didn't already say Tom, but yeah, there's a whole bunch of us. Shout out to my wife. She's usually watching us. I don't know if she is or not tonight. She said she couldn't find the stream earlier, but I I couldn't help her in the moment. I was trying to figure out what the heck I was doing. But just thanks to everybody that's a part of this so far. I'm having a blast. Team Flex is having a blast, and we're looking forward to next week.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, hopefully we'll see you back in the booth next week after the race, and you'll continue the success that you have. So have a good week. We'll see you next time.
That's the plan. I appreciate it, guys. Y'all have a good night.
All right. Bobby, this is Matthew in the booth. You got me?
Hey, Mr. Gall. What's up, buddy?
What's up, man? So the dominance continues this week. You look strong out there. Everybody was losing tires, and you were playing pretty strong. What was the strategy? Save tires or go hard?
I did a little of both after last week's race. After post-race inspection with my motor, we found some shavings in the filter, so we had to put a new, fresh Yates motor into it. During our practice, me and the team, one of us would just go out there and run laps. One guy would pit to see how long it would take. One guy would do 2 tires just to see what the fall off was.
Yeah.
And the right sides, if you drove good, were within 5%, which is pretty good, honestly.
Really good. Yeah.
And yeah, I would push hard probably the first 8 to 9 laps and then just back it down and adjust some brake and hope for the best.
Yeah. So we saw at one point there you took the high side on a restart and then went back. And it looked like when you had the high side it was good. Did you not like that, or what was the thinking behind the choose?
I figured I would try it with a teammate beside me. It kind of helped because I can tell him roughly where I was going to go. So
Yeah.
if I can get out quick, I can come across or he can come across me. And so with Matt Grenier got up to third, we tried to play teammate strategy and see who was better on restarts on the track. And that's why I chose the bottom on the second restart.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Well, I'm sure we'll be seeing you in the booth shortly. You seem to be top 3 pretty much every week. So while you're here, you have the opportunity to shout out whoever you like. Go for it.
Yeah, first of all, Mr. Matthew Gall of SRN, glad you put this on. Racing with a bunch of guys. They all seem pretty nice. I've had a couple people message me some questions on some things. Told them how I did it. And a couple of them I can see their race results improved.
Yeah.
I'm always here to help. I have nothing to hide on my old Logitech wheel here. Of course, Flex Motorsports, without us practicing and going over different race scenarios, especially at the end with those 2 cautions. I think a few of us still had a set of stickers left in the pits, and we were debating if we were going to take them or not. But we were watching the field to see who pit, who didn't, and ultimately we stayed out. So that seemed to help.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
of course, Mag Realty, without them, can't do it.
Yep.
Your
Very good.
natural life.
Yep. Yep.
And the fans in the stands and the guys in here racing with us. Hopefully we can get a couple more people next week. I see more and more people are slowly starting to check us out and race in here and see what it's
Yep.
about.
Yeah, it's a full field, so and we could use a few more though. We'll take a few more. So very good. Well, good talking with you. Congratulations on the win. We'll see you next week. All right. Well, there you have it. That was your top 3 from last week at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Let's move on now. Let's talk about next week. So next week for SRN Truck Series, which is going to be at Dover. That should be a fun race. It's a little bit different. Obviously, coming from Indianapolis to Dover is a completely different race. It's going to be 150 laps because it is a shorter track. We saw in Iowa there was some spins, some things like that. I would expect the same thing to be there. It's very loose track, very hard to keep that throttle back and keep the truck underneath you on the restarts coming off of 2 and 4, you'll just see the car get a lot squirrelier. So last time when we were at Iowa, and Iowa is a little bit bigger track, but very similar in banking and corners. So what we found was that Foothills Motorsports, in particular Chris Phillips and Chris Barker, were really good at Iowa. And so I would expect to see that again. Stephen Shue also was very strong, and that's 3 out of your 4 Foothills Motorsports guys. So I would expect that Foothills is going to be very strong at that track there, and we will see. It's going to be 7:30 Eastern Wednesday on Extreme Sim TV on YouTube. So check that out and watch the action. It should be fun. Like I said earlier, we are about a quarter of the way through the season, so 5 more races will be halfway, and then we'll really know how the points are shaping up, and we will get you more information on that in subsequent episodes. The SRN Road Series is going to kick off their preseason races next week as well, with Phillip Island being a preseason race. It is also about 2/3 of the race through. I think it's race 8 or 9 that the series will visit there in the regular season. So look for that as well. The preseason ones won't be broadcasted, but we'll talk about them on the podcast. And then the regular season, of course, will actually be broadcasted. And that's going to be broadcasted on Southern Racing Network's YouTube channel. So find that as well so you can follow along with the road series. But yes, next week, Phillip Island, we will recap that at next week's podcast episode, and more information coming on that series as well. Still looking for drivers in there. I think we have about 13 or 14 cars that will be on track, so not a bad field to get started, but wouldn't mind a few extra ones if anybody wanted to join. Most of those preseason races are not necessarily for recruiting, because that's hard to do as you go into hosted lobbies to get good drivers to come in and actually race with you. So that's just going to be for the drivers to be able to get to know each other and start to race together before the regular season. We did that in our truck series, and it seemed to work out very well. On our next episode, we're going to be going over the recapping of the duels. So we'll go through the duels. We'll set the 500 for you so that you're all up to date and ready for the Daytona 500. And it'll take place a couple days after. It's going to be next Sunday, or the Sunday after next. So we will obviously cover that after on the next episode. But the NASCAR will also be running next week. So our next episode, we will cover week 1 from Daytona there, see who came out of there and didn't get caught up in the big one, and is going to get that momentum early in the season for the NASCAR Coke Series. And then, of course, we'll recap the Dover race once that happens. And that'll pretty much be our next episode. We don't have anything yet in IMSA. That won't be happening until later on in the month. So we will get to that when we get there. But we don't have anything like that yet. So that's all we got today, folks. We will see you on the next episode. Thank you for joining us.